HannaTalk. What's going on, Bleach fans? Simon here. Welcome to HannaTalk. Hope you're all doing fantastic. And today I'm here with a very special guest star. Now, he is an actor who is best known to fans as the voice of Toshiro Hitsugaya, as well as various other characters in the Bleach universe. But he's also been known in shows such as Heat Guy J, Mobile Suit Gundam, Eureka 7, Final Fantasy, Naruto, The Prince of Tennis, and so much more. Please welcome to HannaTalk the amazing Steve Staley.
Woo! Hello, thank you. I didn't even realize I was wearing my Bleach t-shirt.
That's absolutely fantastic. That's no problem. How are you, by the way?
I'm good, thank you. I just returned from vacation and have been busy putting things together, and so I'm doing well, thank you. How's yourself?
That's fantastic. I'm doing really well myself. Obviously, it's quite wintry just right here in Melbourne, Australia. So,
Right.
yeah, which I can't imagine what the weather up in the States is like. So,
Well, it's early spring here, so
that's great though. That's absolutely fantastic. And
yeah.
obviously, like during this time with what's been happening with the pandemic over the last few years, how have you been keeping things up, especially on the acting side of things?
The good thing about how that all worked out is years ago, 15 years ago or more, is when voiceover actors started sending auditions from home. Meaning we all had some type of access to some type of recording, and we knew how to email files and make MP3s, etc. And so when COVID happened and we all had to start recording at home, I mean, we had to up our game. I had to up my game, but it was already standard to create from home, and so that part just took care of itself. Other than the upgrade, I mean, that was what it was. But now I have my stuff upgraded, and so I can do anything from home. Or I could even say, "Hey, I got a problem. It's not convenient. Can I call? Can I do this remotely?" So it's nice to have that as a option.
That's fantastic.
And then as far as everything else goes, it still works the same. It's just very email. No talking to anyone on the phone anymore.
No, that's definitely true. Especially like with all the interviews that I've done over the last few years, especially during the pandemic and stuff. That's something I've noticed a lot of voice actors have started to do. But as you mentioned about before, like a lot of voice actors had their own home recording studios long before I think the pandemic came into play. And obviously because during that time of the pandemic, animation and the voice acting industry were kind of the two industries that didn't really stop as far as what the rest of the world was concerned, because they were kind of the industries that kept going during that time. So
Yeah, there were just some time to get it put together to figure out how that was going to work. But yeah, people worked from home. That's what I mean. Even back in when we first started sending in auditions, certain people would even have an ISDN line put in their house, or prior to recording from home, we all were aware of a phone patch, an ISDN phone patch where you'd go to studios and the people wouldn't be with you in the room. And so it was all kind of the same idea.
right.
So yes, we were kind of well suited for that, and obviously it's easier to record only a vocal than it is to shoot a live action scene, but still we were suited, ready to go.
Absolutely, and that's awesome. That's absolutely fantastic. Now let's take a look at at the very beginning of your career, your origin story, so to speak. How did you get started in acting?
Well, I started in acting when I was a kid. I always liked doing plays and singing, and so I always was doing plays. From probably first like real play I did was when I was 9. So I've always been doing that and singing and stuff. And then even when I was a late teenager, I was ready to move to Hollywood. I moved here when I was 19. I mean, yes, I went to college, but I moved out here for that. And so then just began pursuing all things acting and show business after college, and I don't want to say I ended up in voiceover, but ended up in voiceover.
No, that's fantastic. That's absolutely wonderful. And it's definitely hearing you describe about the way how you've had a lot of acting experiences back when you were a kid is almost the case with like a lot of voice actors in that they have a lot of like theater and musical background in that sense, which really adds to their performances in that way. Best example I think is like Brian Beacock, who spoke a lot about his own theater experiences that really influenced a lot of his performances, as is the case with a lot of actors, which I think really helps to that.
Yeah, because in theater you get a chance to do characters more than you would in film and TV, and so those learning how to approach characters helps for voiceover more than just being yourself.
Absolutely, that's fantastic. And who or what inspired you really to go into acting, and who would you consider to be like your acting influences?
Oh wow, it's funny that I don't have an answer for that. It was really like would watch TV in my teens and be like, God, I can do that. I could do that. And more than influence, you know what I'm saying? And then artistically, I just wanted to study and get better. I knew that I needed to get better, and then keep studying. So I mean, I can't say that I don't have any influences, but when you put it like that, I don't think of anyone in particular in that way for the through line of my career.
Wow. No, that's fantastic though. That's amazing nonetheless. Especially because, like as you mentioned about before, with having watched like TV around as a kid at that time, I guess you could almost say in a way, like especially for myself, having grown up being a really big animation fan and stuff, I like to a lot of kids. You could say that like the influences came from like Mel Blanc from the Looney Tunes era, or from like a lot of those cartoons from around that time, of course. So you could, I guess, if you look at that, you could say that those were kind of the influences, like the actors from those shows, from the shows that you watched, I guess.
Sure, I mean, definitely, right? And impressive too when you think about how Mel even did that.
Absolutely. And that's definitely true, of course. I mean, he's obviously up there as like one of the best voice actors of all time, and still to this day forward. And Looney Tunes is still as beloved as it was back then, of course.
Yeah, because they're timeless, and his characters are flawless.
Absolutely, and that's fantastic. That's absolutely wonderful. Now, going across a little bit into the anime side of things. Now, as many people will know, typically in anime, it's based on manga. Have you ever read the manga for any anime series that you've worked on in particular, or heard about a project before you started working on that series?
No, I haven't. Although I have picked up the manga in Barnes and Noble a time or two and seen the Naruto one, but I haven't. Although I do like perusing the manga of the shows that I have been on because I like the artwork.
Wow, that's fantastic. That reminds me of like several interviews that I did before with Aaron Roberts and Amberly Connors, who've spoken about a lot of their acting performances, that they're huge fans of the properties that they worked on, I think before they started working on the series at the time. And they said, being such huge fans of that, having an understanding for the series and the characters that they're working on really helped to enhance their performances at that time. But on the other side of that equation, you've also got actors like Joshua Seth, who many people remember from the Digimon universe, where I remember an interview I did with him where he spoke about this one advice he got from one mentor of his who said, don't read ahead, just go in there completely surprised. So, yeah.
I guess what I would say to that is technique is anything that works. And whatever's going to help you call on the parts of yourself that are required to make a line reading truthful and honest, then that's what you do.
Absolutely, and that's absolutely fantastic. Now, what would you what was like your first voiceover role?
Oh God. Ushiki Yugi, probably. In terms of a role, I don't know. I did some other stuff that I don't know what it was, but the first anime role, my friend Bridget brought me into it, and it was at Animes, and I think it was Bushiki Yugi.
Right. And what was it like doing that role in particular?
It was twins, and I had to play the same person, and Bridget was there to guide me. But one of the main things about that was it was my first dubbing on a leading role like that, and it was where I learned how to do it.
Right.
So that's what was significant, is that I guess, in that sense, that was where I was learning on the job.
Right. That's absolutely fantastic, especially because looking at like with anime dubbing, it's vastly different to doing like doing voiceover work in like Western in like a non-Japanese anime style or Western animation style, where in the case you have to like voice with the lip flaps in anime, but in Western animation you can pretty much it allows you to kind of be a little bit more flexible and allow you to improvise in a much grander
Well,
sense.
in the original animations that I've been in, yes, you get to do all that, and you do what the director and the producer are asking you to do, mostly is what you do. And then they get a certain amount of coverage, and then that's it. You don't really know what they do with it after that. They choose the takes they want. Well, pretty much they circle them in the session and go back to them in the mix or whenever they're going to get to work on it. But you aren't contained by lip flaps. You aren't restricted, which is a whole different thing, right? Being restricted by those lip flaps is a whole different level of technique to do acting at the same time.
Absolutely. And it's still, and for me personally, I mean, I definitely see anime work as still basically just like, yep, you're basically having to dub over a previous actor's work, but you're still giving off a performance at the end of the day. It's still acting at the end of the day, you know. And I will say, and
right, you still have to come up with your performance, but then you add the extra layer of, and it has to be in this same amount of time, and it has to match these false lip flaps of a painted character, not even a live person.
absolutely. That's definitely true. Now, one of the roles that was actually my intro to your work was from a series called Battle Man, where you played Enju. What was it like?
Oh my God, Battle That was the one that came after Digimon, right?
I believe
and
so.
I think that one Michael Sorge directed, and we got toys.
Yes. What was it like
was
playing
that? The motorcycle one or the bicycle one?
I think it was kind of like a bit of a. I always thought of it as like a precursor to.
They threw down those.
The marbles.
Things.
Yeah, the marble shooting game. Yeah. What was it like in particular? Obviously, that's like quite a blast from the past. But what was it? What was it like playing in a series like that?
Oh, it was fun because I like the Digimon and that beat 'em on were at the same studio, and so it was fun to go there, and those were fun because those felt more like kids shows, you know. So it was fun to play around and be crazy on those shows.
Absolutely.
Again, there's only so much playing around that's happening because your work is restricted by lip flaps. So it was more fun to just figure it out, right? Come up with it. Because remember, you're also trying to get through volume. You know, you're trying to get through hundreds of lines.
Absolutely, and that's definitely fantastic. I'm actually still currently watching the original series myself, and you've done, from what I remember back in the original series, from when I first watched it, you and all the actors across the board did a fantastic job in the series. It was amazing.
Thanks. Well, I loved doing that show.
Absolutely. It was definitely a fantastic series, even though it was kind of a little bit of an unknown sort of show at that time. And just like with
Yeah.
Digimon and Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh, it was based on the toy line that was popular in Japan at the time.
Yeah.
But I will definitely go on record to say this, that as many people will know from my interview that I did with Brian Beacock, who did the voice of Yamato, the main character in Battle Beaterman, I actually have got, to this day forward, my Battle Beaterman, which I purchased on eBay, which I think is supposed to be Winged Ninja, and I still have it to this day forward, 3 years ago.
Is it? It's a toy?
Yes, it is, actually. So I've tested it out.
Like I said, I remember those toys. He gave them to me. I didn't really have anywhere to display them, so they went in a box in the trunk of my car, which is where I think they still are, because they're safe there, really. And I remember getting the Beat 'em On toys. They were cool.
Absolutely, and I definitely think it's great in the fact that it's still a beloved series and everything, and obviously the toys were quite popular when they were here in Australia at the time. And I kind of wish in a way that maybe one day they might make a resurgence one day, like either in the States or up in Australia at one point. That would be amazing.
Maybe.
Absolutely.
I mean, streaming, all that stuff is coming back. It's as popular as ever, it seems.
Absolutely, that is definitely true. Now, looking across into one of your most well-known roles was being part of the Bleach universe, having played the role of Shuei Hisagi and Toshiro Hitsugaya.
Yeah.
What was it like playing those characters and stepping into the world of Bleach for the first time?
It was fun to be on a show where I got to do two different characters, and as I've said before, I don't even really remember how that happened. I really don't. All I know is I ended up with both of those characters, and the fun of it is they each have their own thing that they're off to, so I get to see more parts of the story than others, because I'm in two different parts, and so it's fun having the lore associated with both of them, and the fact that they both continue on into 1,000-Year Blood War is also very cool.
Absolutely. And I remember from when I watched the original series from quite a long time ago, you and all the actors across the board have did an amazing job in the series. It was such a fantastic show, and probably, in my opinion, one of the best anime of all time, in my personal opinion. So.
Wow, thanks. Well, people loved Bleach, and it was fun. It was fun to come in and see what we were up to, because sometimes it'd be like, oh, this is funny and jokey, or oh, this is serious and badass. You know, you never knew what was going to happen when you'd come into work.
Absolutely, and that's I think the fun of it in that sense, is that it's so unexpected. It's basically just like walking up to a Jack in the Box and just twisting the handle and just seeing what pops out, essentially.
It is, right? You go, oh, this is a serious one today. I better get my wits about me, or oh, it's me and Rangiku joking around the whole time.
Absolutely. Now, speaking about, of course, with the 1,000-Year Blood War Revival series, you, of course, made your return into the Revival series when it was announced. I think it was back during the time of the pandemic, I think it was. What was it like, especially, to come back into the world of Bleach and playing in the Revival series?
It felt just like always, I have to say, except that I was doing it from home, which is not something we ever did then, right? I only did Bleach at Studiopolis in the booth, and I've only ever done 1,000-Year Blood War here from home, and so that makes it different. But otherwise, it feels just like no time has passed, honestly.
Absolutely. Even though it's been like a number of years, I think when the original series had ended at that time, and obviously people knew about the 1,000-Year Blood War arc that was happening in the manga at that time, but unfortunately it never got finished by the time that the original anime was about to end at that time. So a lot of us were wondering, had no idea whether they were going to continue with the story or they were going to end it at that point in the original series, which I felt like with the original series, it ended on a way that was satisfying to everybody, but at the same time, there was still that moment of just like, you know what, we'll wait and see what happens if they do more of it, and cut to now, they're finally revealing, they're finally getting into the final arc of the original manga, which is just absolutely fantastic, and I'm really, really happy
they
brought it.
Revisit it. It's pretty cool.
Absolutely. And obviously now with this revival series, and obviously the creator talking a little bit about what he wants to explore with Bleach going forward, what would you personally want to explore in the world of Bleach going forward after this revival series?
Wow. I don't know. I think that they should make it a musical. Oh, they did make it a musical. No, maybe that's Naruto. Where I get to, the ice dragon gets to, you know, ice dragon and freezing everything out. Frozen, only it's called Bleach. Frozen, the Bleach edition.
That would actually be pretty cool. I actually would have loved to have seen in a lot of the filler episodes that we had in Bleach, I would have loved to have seen like a musical styled episode in the original Bleach anime. That would actually be something they could easily do in the revival series. It's just like a filler episode just to break up from all the chaos in the 1,000-Year Blood War, because it is a really serious arc. It's like all out war in that one, I think.
Yeah, and I haven't been in it. I mean, I've been in it, right? I've gone to work, but I haven't been in it. So I'm not entirely versed on the details of what's going on in 1,000-Year Blood War. In fact, I have upcoming on that show for a certain amount of time, so I'm hoping I'll be able to see more scenes than I have so far.
Absolutely, that would be fantastic. And they of course did confirm that we're going to get more. We're supposed to be getting, I think, season 2 and possibly another season of the revival series at some point. So there's still more Bleach to come at this point. So it's never going to stop. So the more the merrier, I guess.
It's amazing to have a job like that for so long. It's been great. I've loved doing Bleach for all this time, and the video games too.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, going a little bit further into the Bleach side of things, we also had the live-action movie back in 2018 where a bit of the original cast had returned for that first movie, which adapted like the first part of the story. Did you ever watch the movie yourself, and what's been your opinion?
No.
Oh.
I did, but I'm aware of it. I don't have a problem with it. I see it on when I channel flip, and I'm always like, oh, look, there's live-action Bleach. But I haven't watched it. It's funny as we talk, right? I'm like, oh, I wonder why I haven't watched that. But I'm well aware of it.
Right. And what's been your opinion on anime being adapted for live action?
I think that's great. I mean, how fun would it be if they kept doing that, right? Instead of revisiting movies that were made in the 80s, adapt some of these stories and make them in a way that they have.
Absolutely. I think that's definitely great to hear that, especially because we've been getting a lot of anime adaptations for the last few years. And this year, we're about to get ready for the One Piece series coming out later this year on Netflix. And I personally, for myself, having seen the live-action Cowboy Bebop series, I think that with anime adaptations, they're slowly starting to get better and slowly starting to figure out the formula a little bit and sort of on their way to breaking the curse, so to speak. If they can manage to break the video game film curse, anything is possible at this point.
Yeah, and there's plenty of good stories out there that if they're smart about the way they put it together, could work out.
Absolutely.
World building.
Absolutely. And this is the question out there to all the listeners. Let me know in the comments below. Do you want to see a sequel to the live-action Bleach movie? And leave a like or a comment if you really want to see Steve Staley make a Stan Lee cameo in the live-action sequel. That would be amazing.
Wouldn't that be funny?
That would be absolutely...
Some kind of storekeeper or some, I don't know, Oyron customer, something stupid.
No, that would be absolutely amazing, though. That would be fantastic. And going across into the other roles that you've done, you also did the voice of Hyuga, and I apologize if I mispronounced the name there, in the Naruto universe. What was it like playing that character and in the world of Naruto?
Well, similar to Bleach, number one, we did that at the same studio. So in a way, I lumped those two together because they were also at the same time. So I would go to the same place for work. So in my real life, that's what it seemed like to me. And then Naruto really lasted for a long time and is still very popular and still having video games. And those characters, especially since at the beginning of it I had no idea, was really great luck. Now if I could only get so lucky as to have Neji get a Funko Pop, then I'd be sitting pretty.
Absolutely, that would be amazing. And especially looking back at watching the original series myself, from like before I think Shippuden came into the time, before Boruto came into play at that time, you did a fantastic job in the series, as did all the other actors across the board. It was still an amazing series.
Yeah, really long lived and beloved.
Absolutely. And obviously now, because of the Boruto series, what would you personally want to explore in the world of Naruto, whether in the Boruto series or if they ever decided to do like a spin-off series?
Well, they better go back in the past because my character's dead, so I don't give a flying F what they
do. That would be a pretty cool series to see, just like a spin-off series dedicated to Nenji and the Hyuga clan as well, just dedicated
entirely.
Yeah, Hyuga.
Yeah. Well, okay, good. A Hyuga arc, but from the past.
Absolutely. That would be pretty amazing to see that, actually. Now, you've also played across in shows such as Heat Guy J, Mobile Suit Gundam, Eureka 7, Final Fantasy, The Prince of Tennis, Digimon, and Rurouni Kenshin. What was it like playing across all these different projects?
Great. Those are like the greatest hits. Some of those are favorite shows of mine. People love the movie Advent Children. From at this point, quite a few years ago, and it's been great fun to go into these universes and create these characters just in the booth. To have to make it up, come up with it, and figure out in conjunction with the director what to do with it. It's been really intense and fun.
Absolutely, that's fantastic. And speaking about a little bit further with Final Fantasy, now, as many people that listening out there don't know, we of course have the Kingdom Hearts video game series, which is a blend of the Disney characters with, I think, characters from the Final Fantasy universe, I believe. And there's been reports going about for a number of years of them doing a TV show, of Disney developing a TV show or a movie on the Kingdom Hearts games. Is that something you'd personally like to see, like them doing a live-action Final Fantasy movie or TV show?
I bet they could get a lot of mileage out of that. In fact, that's a great idea, doing it instead of as a feature film or maybe a franchise, but like a TV series. Wouldn't that be cool?
Absolutely.
But there's so many ways. Like, I've been in several different iterations of Final Fantasy, There's a lot going on in that world.
Absolutely. I think if they can manage to break the video game film curse with Sonic the Hedgehog and just recently with Super Mario Brothers, anything at this point is totally possible. That would be truly amazing to see.
Yeah, that'd be a great idea to see something like that put into action movies.
Absolutely, definitely. Now, talking a little bit further about Digimon and Rurouni Kenshin, we of course have the Digimon Reboot series, which is a reboot of the original Digimon Adventure series, and we're about to get ready for the reboot of Rurouni Kenshin. What's been your opinion on classic anime like this being rebooted?
Well, I mean, it seems like that's something that's done now in entertainment, where reboot is a thing, and so why not? If somebody's able to originate stories and come up with some interesting content and connect it to something people already care about, then go for it.
Absolutely. I think that's definitely great to see, especially like with the Rurouni Kenshin reboot. I think regardless of how people feel about the creator, in light of what's happened over the last few years, I feel like there's no denying that Rurouni Kenshin is still a very beloved anime series. It's one of the best anime series I remembered watching from years and years ago. It was so fantastic. And especially them doing the reboot gives them the chance to fully adapt the story from the manga. As well as that, just like with Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood and Fruits Basket, they got the original cast members back for those two shows. Fingers crossed, they're going to get the original voice actors to come back for this one, and I'm hoping they get you to come back for this one as well, because that would be amazing.
That would be amazing. And now, as you know, I have no way of knowing any of that, and no actor does. We essentially just wait for the phone to ring, right? No one is asking us what we think about any of it.
Absolutely. But I think if they can get back like the original cast, most of the original cast members for the reboot of Fruits Basket and Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood, then they can do the same thing for the Rurouni Kenshin reboot series. Anything is possible.
Yeah, and it all depends on somebody getting an idea and a concept, and that's what they want, and then sometimes you're swirled into things, and sometimes you're not. So that's a great idea. Sure, let's hope they do it.
Absolutely, that would be amazing. Now, looking across at now obviously just having had the Bleach revival series, what's like one other show that you've worked on would you personally want to see a full-on revival of? Not necessarily a reboot, but sort of like a bit of just a full-on revival series of picking up where it left off in the original series.
I wonder. I could say Eureka 7. See what happened to Moondoggy when he finally grew up, or any of them really. Because I played all the young characters, it would be fun to reboot with them as grown men, you know.
Definitely, that would be pretty cool to see. So, my question out there to the listeners, when this interview is officially up and running, let me know in the comments below. What other show that Steve Staley worked on would you want to see a revival series of? And let me know what you want them to do in that series, because that would be amazing.
That would be cool to see some of these stories, even though you would consider it a revival, but just a new moment in time for the characters.
Absolutely, that would be really, really cool to see. And looking back across at like your entire career and where you're going forward at this point, where do you hope to see yourself with regards to acting and entertainment in the long run?
I'm kind of in the long run already. I'm glad to keep my foot in the door of acting. I do spend more of my time now directing, but I still have all of my acting associations, and I still audition for projects and do projects, and then things like Bleach and those keep going, and I still do things that don't get attention, you know, commercials, looping, those kinds of voiceover jobs I still do, but like I said, those don't get you any attention. Those are just voiceover jobs that are something people don't think about, right? Not every voiceover job brings notoriety.
Absolutely.
So keeping it rolling and keeping my time spent directing, you know, using all the built up knowledge I have over these 25 years to direct shows well and efficiently.
Absolutely. And I think it's really interesting you mentioned about the fact that like how you describe voice acting is not really getting a lot of notoriety in that I remember this one interview I did with Katie Lee, who I brought back onto HannaTalk a few years ago, who many people remember from a lot of Disney shows and like The Adventures of Gummy Bears, Darkwing Duck, where she spoke about voice actors as like we're famously anonymous. I think is the term she used, which is definitely rings true actually, unless of course you go to comic conventions, which is a whole other story, of course.
Right, but even then, until somebody walks up, they don't know who you are.
That's true, but I will go on record to say this, and I've said this across in every interview that I've done, and I will say this to the day I die. If people were to constantly ask me why I still go to Comic-Con, like comic conventions like Supernova, Oz Comic Con, all those types here in Australia, I say I go to meet the voice actors. They're my rock stars right there.
Yay! It's also just you appreciate that there's a person behind that voice in the show that you like.
Absolutely, and that's the
Yeah.
reason. That's the reason I do this HannaTalk, and I've been doing it for the last 8 years now.
Wow,
Where,
that's awesome.
yeah, and I do this. I mean, I just actually get to do a bit of a story about this because I know I've got asked this question quite a fair bit. Is obviously for many people out there that don't know, I'm primarily a musician and a teacher, and I started up HannaTalk just to explore, express that side of myself. That's basically being an animation fan and a voice acting fan, but also as a way to show my support to the animation and the voice acting industry, and show my support to all these voice actors as well who've done so much for all these shows that we've all loved and stuff.
And that's fantastic. And by doing so, you keep other people in the realm of being interested in it, and it's better for all of us.
Absolutely. Just doing what I can to show my support to both those industries.
Yeah, fantastic.
Thank you very much, Steve. Now, going across into another question here, and this one's a bit of a head scratcher on this one. What two shows have you worked on would you want to see a crossover between, story-wise and character-wise?
Wow, good one. Let's see. Let's see. Benager Lynx going into Kill La Kill.
That would be a pretty cool one, actually. That sounds like an epic crossover right there, because we've obviously gotten a lot of anime crossovers happening quite recently. Even just like a lot of anime starting to reference other anime in and of itself, which is you can kind of consider that to be sort of like a crossover in and of itself. But no, that'd be really cool to see something like that. Even to see like a bit of a head scratcher on this one. Actually, no, it would be a really cool one to see. Would be like a Naruto Bleach crossover. That would be really, really cool to see something like that.
Yeah, I can see a universe where that's real. But kind of like I told you earlier, to me there is a Naruto Bleach crossover because it was the same studio with the same people, and so it really felt like the same job in a way, you know.
Absolutely.
But that has nothing to do with the entertainment value of it. That's from us, you know, our part of it.
Well, as you said, they were under the same studio, so fingers crossed that one day they'll get a crossover happening between those two shows.
Right. Yeah, one-off even.
Yeah, just like a little one-off crossover. That would be really amazing to see. And looking across at like your entire career and everything, what's like one character or role that you've ever wanted to play or ever wished that you played from an actor's perspective?
I don't know. I guess the villains. The villains are the most fun. But as far as a character that I wish I could have played, I don't really know what that would be. But the villains definitely have a little bit more fun twisting that mustache.
Absolutely. That's definitely true in that regard. It reminds me of this interview that I saw from Ian McShane, who played Tai Lung in the Kung Fu Panda series, in that he's mostly known for playing a lot of villain characters. And he said, as he described it, bad guys always get the best lines.
Yeah.
So
it's just juicier to play, and you know get to be evil in your real life, so you get to do it in your artistic life. I don't know. It's fun. So as far as a character that I wish I had gotten to play, I don't know what that would be, but I do know that the villains are funner.
absolutely, that's fantastic. And looking across at like your entire career, what would you consider to be like the one role that resonates with you the most?
That's different than what's my favorite show, but in a way, I guess Neji and how they wanted me to go after him and be serious, and that's always great to be a serious one, you know. So I guess that in a loose answer to the question.
No, that's fantastic. That's absolutely wonderful. And looking across at like the entire voice acting and the animation industries, what's your view on where those two industries stand within the whole of the entertainment industry?
Definitely gaining ground because there's a fan base. The fact that now it's streaming makes all the difference, I would imagine, in terms of access and popularity, because when I first started, this was stuff people only saw by buying DVDs.
Absolutely.
It wasn't on TV.
Absolutely. I think that's definitely true in that regard, in that obviously before a lot of these streaming services came into play, that like a lot of the anime at that time would either be screened on television or you'd get it through like, at least back during the 90s, like on VHS tapes and DVDs, when DVDs started coming into play at that time. That's definitely true.
Yeah.
But the fact alone that we've got all these streaming services, and now they're starting to bring back a lot of these really classic anime from way back in the day, and it's making a resurgence for a lot of those shows. I think it's fantastic and everything.
Yeah. It's good. It's good for business. The fact that people have instant access.
Absolutely. And obviously looking at the whole of the entertainment industry, if you could change one thing about the entertainment industry, what would that be?
I don't know, that the artists get an even bigger share. How's that?
No, I think
go WGA.
No, I think that's definitely true in that regard, because I remember this one video that I came across from the star of Mob Psycho 100, Kyle McCarley, where he was talking about how I think he ended up having to leave the series at that point, I think before season 3 was about to start, because of the whole union problems that were happening at that time, in that a lot of voice actors, when it comes to the union stuff and pay rates, were not getting such a fair share at that time. And especially with what's been happening up in the States with the writer's strike that's going on at the moment, it's just pretty crazy. So
yeah,
I agree.
Well, it does seem that they've been able to corral more and more dubbing into new union contracts, which is great for those of us getting those acting jobs, to have that money count towards our pension and health and etc.
Absolutely.
It's always a battle, no matter what business you're in, between management and labor.
Absolutely. No, that's definitely true. And without going into any spoilers, what's next for Steve Staley for the fans to know about?
Mostly there is an upcoming Demon Slayer Season 3 that's in the future. People know about that from the manga. And as far as I know, and acting, I'm still in Guild Wars 2 and 7 Nights. What do we call that game? And so those are the things I've got right now on the books that roll forward.
That's fantastic. That sounds absolutely wonderful. And final question, what do you think Toshiro would say if he was in Australia?
He'd say, "Doi Gurin Hiorin Moru."
No, that's fantastic. That sounds absolutely wonderful. That's fantastic. That's absolutely wonderful. Steve Staley, thank you so much. It's been an absolute honor to have you on HannaTalk.
Go HannaTalk. Thank you so much for inviting me. I hope everybody keeps watching, answers some of these questions, and then tunes in again and again.
Absolutely, that would be amazing. And is there anything that you would like to say out there to the fans in Australia and in the world? Anything further to say?
Which other than I hope that I get to meet you soon. It would be great to come down under and say hi. Let's hope I'm able to make it to a convention down the Southern Hemisphere at some point in the near future. That would be great.
Absolutely. Well, we are going to be getting ready for Oz Comic Con later this year, which I think is supposed to be coming out next month, I believe. And obviously comic conventions in Australia have made a really big comeback this year, now that the world is officially back in order. So it would be I'll do everything in my power to try to make that happen, because that would be amazing. Even getting a full-on, even just having a full-on reunion with the rest of the Bleach cast would be absolutely fantastic.
Wouldn't that be fun?
Absolutely, that would be absolutely fantastic. So Fingers crossed, it's going to happen sooner rather than later. That would be amazing.
Do it.
Absolutely.
Let's do it. That'd be a great trip.
Absolutely. Well, guys, if you'd like to find out more about Steve Staley, you can check out the links which I'll put to you in the description below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, click that bell, check out the links, and don't forget to comment below if you have any requests or suggestions for HannaTalk going forward. Thank you all so much for listening. This is Simon and Steve Staley signing off. Bye for now.
Bye.